Welcome to Pinhole Quilting. I'm Liz Holpin. My husband Pete is somewhere behind the camera, not very far away at all. So welcome this morning, a beautiful sunny morning in Worcestershire. We're delighted to be home. We came back yesterday afternoon, late. I can't even remember when it was, sometime yesterday anyway. We drove up from Kent, where we'd spent a lovely few days. We went down on Tuesday to Sussex and we saw one of our lovely customers, our binding fairy. So hi to Carolyn. It was lovely to meet you again after quite a while. Obviously COVID has changed things so much for many of us. We haven't seen lots of people for a while. And Carolyn has got the lovely Hector, and Hector's house has been built. And Carolyn has her long arm in Hector's house. So it was great to see Carolyn. And thank you I've got some lovely gifts actually. Carolyn gave me some beautiful gifts. So I've got some quilts to make and Carolyn's got some binding to do. So thank you very much, Carolyn. This is a good trade-off, hopefully, between us, that we can do some nice trades. So anyway, we're back, but we were busy. We were busy while we were down there. Anyway, welcome to our Handy Quilter owners and to anybody else who might be watching, either live or on catch-up. And have we got sound, Pete? Hopefully
we have got sound, yes. Nobody said we haven't, so we must have.
This is a bonus. It doesn't always happen.
So we'll say good morning to a few people. We've got Di Bell, who was first alert person this morning.
Fantastic. Di, good morning. From Bristol. We're going to say where people are from this time, because I happen to know quite well where most people are from, but if I don't, if you can just put where you're from.
Okay, we can just have a little test for you then. Lindsay Cash is next on this.
Lindsay Cash from Switzerland, from the eastern side of Lac Le Mans, or Lake Geneva, as it's also called. And
Hector is online.
Hector, that would be Sussex, just north of Brighton. Hi, Carolyn.
Susan Lees.
Susan Lees, who is not too far from here, actually, in Warwickshire.
And Tricia Lockhart.
Tricia Lockhart. I visited Tricia and installed her Capri. So she's down in, is it Surrey or, no, it's near, that's west of London, northeast,
High Wycombe.
West, High Wycombe, yeah.
Buckinghamshire.
Beg your pardon.
And
I remember, a very busy road.
Do you remember where Maya is from?
Maya would be towards Wales.
Maya Tauber Wilson Hadlow Lowcock.
Sorry?
Maya's from Melbourne. Maya's joined us on previous days.
There's two different Mayas. We have Maya who's in Wales, but actually Maya who's in Melbourne, Australia. And
we've got Susie Meakin.
Susie Meakin, who is with Tim and Susie are in towards Bristol, Bath.
Further south, Dorset.
Dorset, I'll do it. Okay.
Graham
I remember going through Bristol.
Graham Farcorner.
Graham Farcorner, who's up in Leeds, up in where I used to live, up near,
We'll do a few more. So we've got Sheila Millett. Don't know if you know Sheila.
Sheila Millett, but I remember it's Sheila spelled L-A-G-H.
It is, and Sheila's from Newbury.
Newbury, Berkshire, near where I used to live. You see, I used to live all over the country. So I used to live in Basingstoke. I used to go through Newbury on my way to Basingstoke.
And I'll do a few quickly, otherwise we'll take the entire day doing this. So there's Lorraine Gray, who's in Northern Ireland, of course.
Northern Ireland, yes. Hi, Lorraine.
We've got Marianne in London, Susie Stewart.
Oh, Marianne Tencarter.
Yes, Susie Stewart,
Jonglers.
Who we don't know, Susie. But she says, long arms on my wish list.
Fantastic. Well, I hope this is going to help you, Susie, to identify what kind of long arm might be on your wish list.
Anyway, from all over the country.
All over the country.
And indeed the world.
Absolutely, and all over the world. We have, quite often we have, from the Adirondacks, we have Patricia. Quite often, and sometimes from Brazil we have people, and all over the world. We welcome everybody wherever you might be this morning, this evening, or this afternoon. Fantastic. Welcome you. We hope you find this session interesting, wherever you might be. Just have a quick. So we have been down in Sussex and Kent, seeing, let me see, 4 customers. and doing 3 new installations, and there's one move happening next week, which will be an Amara Pro Stitcher being added to Amara Pro Stitcher at the Little Shop of Fabrics. And it was absolutely fantastic to see Claire and her team at the Little Shop of Fabrics. And if you're ever down in the area of Kent, take a trip out to see Little Shop of Fabrics. It's in a beautiful rural location. And I put a little link of a video on our Facebook page. Just take a check out Claire's shop. It's beautiful. And you can rent if you're interested in, maybe, it depends on how many quilts you're making a year. You know, an investment in a long arm is definitely a considered purchase. And that was a kind of strange accent. But anyway, we won't work out where in the country or the world that was from. But if you're thinking of a long arm, it sometimes depends on how many quilts you're making, of course, as to whether that is worthy of having one at home. And sometimes you want to have a really good go. And we've got some open days that Abigail and I are planning for July here at the showroom and at a venue not very far away, where we'll be doing some some fun outings that you might want to put in your diary for later in the year, where you can try out our machines prior to purchase. So they're things that, you know, it will help you make perhaps a decision without coming here on your own and thinking, they're going to make me think I've got to buy one, I've got to walk out. No, you don't have to do that anyway. And also our Festival of Quilts, I say our Festival of Quilts, the Festival of Quilts at the NEC in Birmingham is an opportunity to also take classes, a half-day class where you can try out the machines. So there are various times when you can try them out. And of course, our weekly sessions here on Facebook Live give you the opportunity to see these machines and have a look and see what they can do. Now, what Claire has as well is the opportunity to take a class in using an Amara with Pro-Stitcher, take the class, learn how to use it, and then quilt your own quilt on her machine. And she's getting her second Amara Pro-Stitcher, which she's been having actually. She had it set up at home. She's going to bring it into the shop so that she can do teaching and renting out of these 2 machines in her shop. So absolutely fantastic, and it was wonderful to meet Jo, who's one of the ladies that helps people to use the machine, and Jo was fantastic. So we're really thrilled, actually, that Claire has invested in the Handy Quilter brand and is using it in a way that we think is a great opportunity both for her and for her customers, and we think she'll do really well with it. So yeah, check it out. There we go. That's Little Shop of Fabrics. The other people that we saw, Debbie, who was, customer of Claire, has now purchased an Amara with Pro-Stitch, and we installed her machine. And then Liz, who's upgraded from a Simply 16 to an Amara, so we had a busy old time. And of course we saw Carolyn too. So with no further ado, I will get on and do a demonstration of the Moxie with the Pro-Stitcher Lite. This is a pre-release version. At the moment, you can't just have one of these. We can't ship it. It's not next door in our warehouse. We don't have these that we can send to you. This said, not for sale on the box. It literally, on the outside and on the inside, not for sale. We can't sell this. We couldn't, even if you paid us, we couldn't send it to you. Because it has to get authorization from all the certification bodies in Europe and the UK. And we don't have that yet. So we have to tick all the boxes. That's what Handy Quilter do. They get all certification. To ensure that it fits all the consumer regulations for electrical standards and all the WE directive and all that kind of thing, because that's how we operate. We fit all of those requirements for Handy Quilter. So we're expecting to have all those tick in the boxes done by April, May time, and we're taking pre-orders for the Moxie Pro-Stitcher Lite, the Simply 16 Pro-Stitcher Lite as well. Let's talk a little bit about this and how it fits, just briefly, because we did some videos that are on our YouTube channel, and there are 3 videos up there at the moment. What we did was an unboxing the Moxie, and that was pretty much as it happened. I've got to be honest. We've been unboxing the Moxie. It's not easy to say. Unboxing the Moxie, and we've then put it on our machine. And last week we showed it without fabric on Facebook Live, and then in the afternoon we stitched out this block. We've been away, so that's pretty much as far as we got. There's nothing like doing it live. Yeah, that's what we did last week. So we came back last night. We did come just about last night.
We did.
Yeah, I was working last night and up early this morning, so it's been full on. So we haven't had time to do anything else. So we're going to do an edge-to-edge design now. So what we're going to do, we're going to set up on our Pro-Stitcher Lite. Oh, and by the way, can I just also say, in terms of what we're doing today in Facebook Live, because I don't want to lose people and then everyone go, but I'm not interested in this. Not interested at all. We are, after we've done this, I'm going to talk about, so just keep us on in the background. We're going to talk about, there's a special offer, our 5-year anniversary special offer on the full line stencils. After I've done this demo, we're going to come back onto something of interest to everybody who's interested in stencils. We're going to go through Quilt Pounce, and we're going to go onto the ultimate, barely blue, the blue, getting rid of the marks and using them. And if you've been having any problems, I'm hoping that I can cover that as well. So now that's going to be of interest just to general quilters, domestic as well as long arm. So don't go away. Don't go away. We've got a 15% discount on the full line stencils, and we'll be topping up our stock before the 15% stencil discount runs out, as long as our order arrives okay. Sorry, I can't 100% promise that, because deliveries being what they are at the moment, but they're pretty reliable, so we should have it. So what I'm going to do right now is, Pete, can everybody see what I'm doing here? Or is it?
Let's have a look. I need to come fairly straight
there's a
on.
refresh.
There's a lot of...
Obviously, I'm aware there's a lot of refresh on the screen.
There is, yes. And it's very bright today, which makes it more difficult. Let me go and switch the lights off, that might help.
Yeah, that helped last time, I think. That is the only issue, obviously.
But there is the big yellow light up in the sky that's causing a bit of a problem this morning.
And we're not going to complain about that, that's for sure. We've only just got it. It's only just come into being in the UK in 2022.
Well, I've got the flicker on the screen, of course, but hopefully you'll be able to see that.
I don't know how you can change that. This is Facebook Live.
No, nothing.
It's not something you can do.
It was okay last week, so let's press on. I'm sure we'll be told.
We're going to press on. Now, with this, and we're just going to reduce this size, what we've got is we've got tabs across the top. We've got this area we call the ribbon, which relates to the tabs above it. We've got 2 columns on the left-hand side, which give us access to things that we're frequently using. And then on the right-hand side, we've got an area that will relate to whatever we're doing here and whatever we're doing up here. So this will become obvious. What I've done is I've set up this black rectangle here is my quilting space. So if I go into the area tab, I've actually set up, and you have to do this on Pro-Stitcher Lite. I think this is a really good thing. It's set up the frame space. So this is the maximum area. This black rectangle defines the maximum area that I can...
Let's try and change the screen angle. Oh, it's not really changeable on there.
It's not actually on the Moxie. Oh, and by the way, if you've got almost as... I don't know many people have got quite such rubbish eyesight as me and Pete, but some people do. Bifocals. I've got bifocals that focus on this distance here, as well as being able to read. I couldn't drive in these, and that's a really good thing to have. They're sort of, for using for editing photos and looking at a screen. And that is quite important. Otherwise, you'll be forever going over, under, or pushing the glasses up your face. So I think when you're using Pro-Stitcher, it's a really good idea to have glasses that you can see clearly straight ahead. So we're in the area tab, and I've defined the frame space using a 2-corner. And now I'm going to find a design I like. I like the flutterbys. So I go to File, Design, Open, and in here, this is like a Windows folder. And you can see some of these designs. Touchscreen, so we can scroll through here. So alphabetical. So I'll go down until I find flutterbys, which is butterflies. And I'll just open that up. Now, the nice thing about continuous line designs, or the thing that defines a continuous line design, is it's got the start point, which is defined as or shown as a little green circle, and it's got the end point, which is defined and shown as a little red circle. on the same horizontal plane. So they'll all join up. That makes a continuous line design. All right, and I'm just going to show you how that looks. So you can see I can quilt in my quilting space the whole of a flutterby in one go, which is good. Now I'm going to define the area of my quilt. So I'm going to use my handlebars to tell the Moxie how big my quilt is. And like if I was doing a pantograph from the back, and for those people who are familiar with doing pantographs or groovy boards, I would start it off the quilt and I would stitch it out into the wadding. I would stitch it out into the wadding on all four sides. So I'm going to do that here, which is what I define as my quilting space. So I'm going to go into area and I'm going to do what's called a two-corner area. So I'm going to put two-corner, makes a little pinging noise, which is a nice comforting noise.
So that's defining where the top left-hand corner of your space is.
And then I'm going to define where I want it to stop. And I'm going to come anywhere below that and to the right, because I have to tell it where what my depth is. So I've moved it all the way down, all the way to the right hand side, and I've pressed two-corner. So if you now see, that says width 40.40. But the height's only 8.63. Well, obviously, because it's all of the quilt is on my frame, on my rail. And I can't possibly use that method of moving the handlebars to actually define the height. So you need to have measured your quilt, okay? Or you put in just whatever height you want to sort of put in. I'm going to put in 60 here. Now you can just overtype that, it just lets you overtype. So we'll put in 60.
So this is the length of your quilt top.
That's right. Obviously, you don't want to have now kind of thought, oh, darn it, I didn't measure the height, because you don't want to be taking it off your quilt. There is a way of actually creating an area that will crop away the bottom, should you have forgotten at this point. So there are techniques for doing that later. But anyway, there's my area, little pink box, and the orange crosshairs represent my needle. And as I move my Moxie, those orange crosshairs are moving. So in this white workspace here, we can see the area, we can see one flutterby, and the orange crosshairs. So that's all we've defined so far. And the black rectangular box, as I said earlier, is the amount of quilting space I can do at any one time. Now we need to set up the repeats, and there is a repeat tab. And this is where I ask the Pro-Stitcher Lite to do the best it can with filling that flutterby design all over that area. And there is a button called Fill. Marvellous. Press it. And it does the best it can with the design at that scale. Okay, so that original scale of flutterbys was whatever it came in as. It would have said at the top it was 12 point something. So that is the scale of the original flutterby's design. And you can see it doesn't quite fill that area. So now what I need to do is adjust it. So on this right hand side, as I said right at the beginning, there are things that relate to what we're doing here. I've got horizontal and I've got vertical. And I can play with this now. This is where I sort of manipulate it, I change it, I reduce the gap, I increase the number of repeats, and I can do various things. So this is where on the vertical, if you watch this now, I'm going to increase the number of repeats. That's pushed it beyond the bounds of the pink area.
Which is what we want.
Which we want. I'm going to increase the number of horizontal repeats. So I've not changed the scale of the flutterby, partly because I know, and if we looked at the beginning, we saw that actually that flutterby fitted quite nicely into the amount of free arm space I'd got. So if I made it too small, I'm not maximizing my sort of free arm space, the number of repeats, and the amount of space I can do a flutterby at a time. So, and I don't want to squidge that flutterby either. If you've got circles, you don't really want to distort it. So, you know, you've got to be careful depending on the design. Okay, so that looks quite good, and I can trim away these extraneous bits around the edge by going into modify, and I can crop all the stuff outside, just like that. Got rid of all the extra bits outside of my area. Okay, so now you see all these little green bits. If I just zoom in for you, you'll see what they are. This is where all that bits of the design, all those green bits and red bits, are stops and starts. I don't really want those, but don't worry. There's a button for that. I think that's going to be a phrase that I use. There's a button for that. It's called edges. I can press that, and literally those will be just jump stitches or tie-offs, and our Pro-Stitcher Lite will have got rid of those.
So that's going to speed up the whole stitching process because you've got fewer starts and stops going on.
That's right. So now we do what's called baseline. And baseline is a really important button to press. And if you're not sure what a button does, I'm just going to press it now, so don't forget. If you're not sure what a button does, there's this query button up here. And this is where you become a bit like a little kid. You go, right, what does that do? You press the query button, then you go, what does that do? And here you can read all about baseline. Okay, so baseline freezes the modifications you've made to the design. And all modifications after you baseline treat the design as a new, unaltered design. Now, what does that really mean? It means that everything I do after this, treat the design as a whole. And so when I do things like moving on, what we call drag and drop, it doesn't think the design is lots of flutterbys all joined together, which would be a problem. It actually treats it as a whole design. And that's really important. And it gives some examples here, so you can read this through at your leisure if you have one of these. And these are really useful. So, you know, if you didn't know what align did, or if you didn't know what skew did, you don't know what reposition did, there's a manual as well. But just having this little query mark, when you're learning, it's really handy just to kind of go, oh, what does that do? What does that do? And when you finish going, what does that do? You can just close it. All right. So the next thing we would also do, of course, is we'd save this. You always save your work. Just save selected. And we would save this. I would put a USB stick in here, or you create your own folder. So we just call this test or something. Let me just make sure I put this in the right place. Put this in workspaces. So workspaces, call it test, repeat flutterbys, call it something meaningful with my name on it, and now we're ready to stitch. Okay, so this is where I would always just make sure that everything looks okay. What I'm doing is I'm just checking the crosshairs. That's my needle. And also that the start point is in the right place. And that the low point of the design looks okay. I can zoom in at any time. So you see there's my green start point. That looks good. But I can zoom out or refresh using this home key down here. And what I do is I always kind of put the crosshairs not too far from the start point, just so I know if it goes herring off in the opposite direction, it's not a horrible surprise. So I go to Pro-Stitcher. I've got stitch in dark green. That means it's ticked. I've got start and end with micro stitches, and I'm going to do what's called pull up on. That's going to bring up my bobbin thread. Okay. And we haven't used this since last week, have we, Pete?
No.
So I'm assuming. Shall I assume, or shall I just do a quick test? Make sure that it's working. Let me just pull up just make sure it pulls up the bobbin thread. Yeah, it does. That's fine. Never assume. All right, so I'm just going to press run. It verifies for you. It checks what the settings are. This box is very handy, and it's always important to just check that your settings are what you would expect. So it's going to do a normal stitch, not a basting stitch. It would be possible to do a basting stitch on this machine. Actually, no, it's not possible on the Moxie, is it? It will do 5 tie-off stitches, 0.05 inches apart, micro stitches, and it's going to go at 50% of the speed, 10 stitches per inch, and it will do a jump stitch if there is a jump of more than 3 inches. And what that means is at the end of the row, it's more than 3 inches to start the next row, so it will stop. That's important because it saves your thread. So also make sure the needle is up. Really, really important. So proceed. Error. Oh, design is outside the frame space. That's a good start, isn't it? Ah, did I just go slightly outside my frame space? I might have done. Ah, okay. I'm going to just cancel that. Okay. You know, when I set it up, I just pushed it slightly outside my frame space. Can I just move my area? Mm-hmm. Okay. So area.
It's a real life situation.
You know what I did? I made the frame space slightly big, slightly too small. If I just clear that frame space and make it bigger, to corner, and go all the way over here. Let's just see if that does it, because I mean, this is a new, and that would be a good thing to do, wouldn't it? So Pro-Stitcher.
So Liz, just press run again.
There we go. And that is really good, actually, because it was a check to make sure that it wasn't going to hit a bar or. There we go.
Now it's doing the locking stitches that Liz defined. And then we're away. Now you'll see that we've got the glide foot on here, because going off the edge of the quilt and back on again, that ensures that the foot doesn't get caught under your quilt top.
It is going to stitch over my block, but I'm not worried.
Now Liz can sit back and enjoy her coffee.
I'm now drinking my coffee.
Now it's going to get easier to see. Now we're off last week's block design.
And you can see how what it's done on that, when I did the edges, it basically does a straight line.
And then carries on
the design. So it's a really efficient way of doing your edges. And it works out how to crop that at the edges and what the new path needs to be.
If I show you the screen, that's just tracing on the design where the needle is at the moment. So you can see that.
I can zoom that in if you like. So the orange is what we've sewn, and the black is what's yet to be done. This is a lovely design, actually. One of the people I worked with at Cotton Patch, she did a butterflies as a groovy board originally, but it's using this design at this scale on her quilts. That was Nikki, and it looks absolutely beautiful with a lovely Moda fabric, series of fabrics. It's a really pretty design, not over quilted.
Hi Janice. Yes, there'll be a lot of people out in the garden this weekend.
Oh yeah.
First sign of spring, really. You've got to come in for a coffee at some stage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was sort of 17 odd degrees, wasn't it? Yeah. There we go. It's a nice, I like the way it kind of crosses over that point. It's kind of a nice simple design. A stylized butterfly. So these kind of edge-to-edge designs that are provided with Pro-Stitcher Lite, you can add to any of these, of course. There's quiltable.com, there's lots of other providers of digitized designs, or you can add on to your Pro-Stitcher Lite with Pro-Stitcher Designer, or you can use Art and Stitch, which is another digitizing design. You can also crop away existing designs and make your own. So there's lots of different options. So when we get to the top, to the end of this, it's going to stop. So there's a little bit more to do. Can come down. There's a few little stop bits. And do this little loop. And where there's a dashed line on the screen, oh, we've got a thread break, Pete. So we need to stop. Oh, that's good. I'm going to say it's good, but we can show what happens when you get a thread break. Not good, but
it broke good, but off the edge of the design. Very handy.
That's easy. I like that. So it does happen. We do get thread breaks. If it can happen on the edge of the quilt, that's ideal. So actually, yeah, it did actually break. If we look at this, it actually broke just as it was finishing off the design. So it was pretty much as it was doing that, those final stitches. But if you get a thread break, you unlock the motors, and that means that you can then move. So you can see, if we just zoom in on this, yeah, so it didn't do that final little butterfly, so we need to be able to stitch this. So what we didn't get was we didn't get this bit here. So we're missing a butterfly. Okay, so we need to stitch that.
You see that's the line. It thinks it's stitched a little bit further than that, but it didn't because the thread broke. So we need to go back and recreate that little bit of the butterfly design.
So there's two things that you need to do. First of all, you need to work out why the thread broke, and obviously your bobbin thread is potentially still attached. So you need to cut your bobbin thread. So that's the second thing to do. The other thing is that the motors up here will have been green, and I disengaged them just by touching that motors button. So now I could move my machine around. So that's how you kind of disengage it. You don't press emergency stop unless you absolutely have to. That is literally, the world is about to end, you're going to press emergency stop. You don't need to press that, okay? So that's what you really don't have to press that. You can press cancel, but don't press emergency stop and then press the green button so you can move it. And then we go into, so Pro-Stitcher, we're going to do what's called new start and end. So this is a really neat little function in here. And we find, and on this right hand side, there is a very neat little button, which is this auto. But first of all, I want to make sure that you need to resolve your thread issue. It might mean that you need to put a new needle in. You might have run out of bobbin thread. Whatever it is, you need to have sorted that first. That is imperative. Definitely if the bobbins run out. And you need to do test stitching and make sure that you've done that first. Doesn't help that I didn't have the ratchets on. So whatever is going on with your thread, check it out. I'm not quite sure why, but I will do my test. So we do that. We check that everything is looking hunky-dory. I'll just tighten that tension a little bit. A little bit more. It's a little bit loose than realized. Till I'm happy. Okay. Yep. Okay, so when I'm happy, I'm just going to trim. And this function here, let me just check. I have got the bobbins.
Do I have a problem?
That's where I went.
There we are. We have an empty bobbin. This is a pre-wound bobbin.
I suddenly realised
no
the bobbin thread had finished.
Okay.
Literally, that's why the.
Let me go and find you another one.
Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we know why it was probably, like the end of bobbins tends to be a little bit erratic. So I was just testing it and I was thinking, I don't have any more bobbin thread. That was the end of the bobbin. We will get more bobbin thread.
There we are, you can have a different colour.
You're going to give me that? You're going to give me a cream bobbin thread for a black fabric? Okay.
Oh,
no problem.
Here's a black. Here's a black. Here we go.
Pete's giving me the ultimate test of tension. If you were doing your quilt at home and you were using a black top fabric, you generally wouldn't use a cream bobbin. And we always recommend oiling when you put a new bobbin in, and see, we do all these things, of course we do. And we also test your bobbin tension with a full bobbin. Everything is done with a bobbin that is full, because the weight of the thread itself makes a difference, you see. Right, that might make a difference too. So when you're doing pantographs, you would check your bobbin is full before you do the line. Of course you would. That looks good. Happy with that. Oh, it's a shame I didn't just finish that butterfly before that went.
It's a good opportunity to start with a new start point.
It is. We'll show you how that works.
As I say, this is a real life situation.
It is. That's much better. New bobbin does help, Pete. So yeah, this is a really neat function. Didn't used to be this easy. They've made it much easier. So what we do is we move the crosshairs to where you want it to start. All right. And you press auto, and it moves that green little start point that we saw when we started the first line. It moves it to here, and then you press it again, and it fixes it. If you didn't press it again, it wouldn't fix it. Now you can actually move these and just see what to make sure that you're on the right one. You see, I'm not quite the right one here. I want it to do that butterfly. I'm just going to see what the path is. This is how you can see which way it's going. 337. I want to see where that green is going to go. Is it going to go all the way down and back up? Yes, it is. So you can actually see where it's going to stitch. So it's going to do that butterfly and come back. It's going to go down. So you can check that you've got, because if it's a complex design, you might have picked the line adjacent to where you want it to start. Okay? So that looks good. So I'm just going to move it there. Slightly zoom in even more. Look, you can zoom in that much, and if I just press it once, it literally moves around until I stop moving the crosshairs. And you can see how it jumps around, but it always finds a line. So you've got to make sure you get the right line. So I want this one down here. Okay. Let's see if I still got the right line. Right, and we now do, now you can also do tie off on resume and pull up on resume as options.
Do we need the motors on?
No, it'll do it.
It'll do it automatically, yeah. Okay.
So we do resume, and then it'll pick it up. So I just pick it up, and resume. The only problem is I did change the rollers, so it might be slightly out. But we'll make sure that when we do drag and drop, yeah, that's the only problem. There we go.
That's the taff stitches at the end.
Yep.
Okay.
And then pull down on your thread. And we're ready to do drag and drop for the next line.
So explain what drag and drop does then,
yeah.
Liz.
So drag and drop is really important for moving on. And there are a number of different techniques for this. But the one that we teach to begin is that you put your needle down in somewhere in the middle of your quilt to begin this whole process. And look, there's long jump pause. Anything more than 3 inches, this is what it will do. And I'm just going to zoom out so you can see this. So drag and drop, it will find this, look, because I move the rollers, it's not exactly in the right position. Yeah.
So Liz,
this is a key thing.
Liz has put the needle into a noticeable part of the design.
Yep. So this is what I do. Then I press in Pro-Stitcher. Where's my drag? There it is. I press drag, and it changes to drop. Then I release my side tension. Okay. And my front back cogs and stoppers. Watch what happens on the screen as I move, and the whole machine will move back. Watch this.
So it's moving the design at the same time as the machine and the quilt is moving. Yeah. So it's remembering where the machine is on the design.
Yep, I can't move much more. I don't think I need to. Then I do what is technically called all the faffing.
Putting the ratchet stops back on, tensioning the quilt top with the rollers. You
can actually see the area has not got so much at the bottom, but it's almost like the whole quilt has got rolled up on the quilt roller, and there's my design rolled up on the roller, and I can zoom in on this. And if for any reason I needed to adjust this, like I'm just going to take that needle up now, I'm going to check that everything looks good. And if I needed to adjust it, there is a nudge function in reposition. What if I reposition? I can literally nudge this until I've got it exactly, and zoom in, until I've got my needle exactly, because you know when we did that needle, that thread break, I was messing around a little bit. Here we go. I can nudge it, and I can change that nudge increment until I've got it exactly where I want it.
So the needle position on the screen is in exactly the same position on the design as it is in real life down here.
That's right. So, and I can check it on all these other points as well. So if I had, I'm not saying that this happens very often, but if someone leans on the bar when they're quilting, they can get an inaccurate bit of their design, and that does happen from time to time. They might need to adjust their design. So we can do that. So let's look. Here's that bit I just did. There. Okay. That. There. Look. Bang on. Okay. Here's this bit here. And I double check that. Bang on. So now we can do the next row. We set that up, and I think we probably should call it a day there. But we can
just show the drop, how you go with the drop function there. It's because you did.
I've already done the drop.
Oh, you did the drop. Sorry.
Yeah, that was already what I did. So now I would start the next row.
So it shows you where to start the next row.
Yeah, and it's just there. Resume. I just press resume, and I can look. Here's the black. If I zoom in on this, you can see the black rectangle shows I can quilt that next row. If I couldn't, I would have had to have made a bit more of an adjustment on my quilt frame to enable me to sew that next row. That's why that rectangle is so important. But tell you what, Pete, we'll leave that as it is, so we can film this
and carry on with it.
Yeah, we'll do it on for YouTube. What I'd like to do next, because people might have been waiting, and I don't want to mess people up who've been waiting, I wanted to talk about the full line, so I'm going to leave that there.
But people have been watching very silently. If you do have any questions about that, then now's the time just to ask them, and I can put them to Liz.
Yeah, and in the meantime, let's just talk about full line stencils. So full line stencils are perfect for domestic and long arm quilters, and perhaps people who don't want to go the Pro-Stitcher Lite route, but want to do edge-to-edge quilting using full line stencils. Here is Quilt Pounce. This is the stencil. The type of stencils they have are nylon with parts of the mesh have been erased effectively to enable this design to go through. You charge your reservoir with the powder that comes with Quilt Pounce. As you can see, this one's been rather well used. And you need to fill sufficient that when you knock this through, you've got enough coming through, but not so much that you overcharge it, because you don't want so much coming through.
So this is a very fine chalk.
And you just wipe it over the top, and it comes through like that. And then you line up the next one. These are markers that enable you to align this. And then that one goes like that. And like that. And if you get it wrong, and you want to start again, you just use this kind of clothes marker. And depending on whether you've got one of these fancy dancy ones that you can... Or you can use a hot iron and it'll just iron away. And then you can start again.
So that does a really nice edge-to-edge design.
Yeah, it's lovely. Got that some hanging up, haven't I?
I can get that.
Yeah. But there's loads of different designs. I mean, there's these beautiful Telen Jeffrey. This is one of Telen's feathers, which are beautiful.
4 different sizes.
Yeah, and the other one that we've got that I stitched out, which worked really, really well, was the tiger stripes, which is that one. Comes in 2 sizes on the same stencil. And this is great for giving you structure within a block. So without having to mark it at all. That's excellent for borders, just having repeats. Again, I think all 3 of those are on that sample. If you wanted to get that, that would be great. Now that's the ultimate, so that's white. Now white doesn't work on everything, obviously. So they do have the option of blue or barely blue. Now we got the blue in because Linda Jackson was teaching a workshop on whole cloth quilting. And we were using cream, and we knew that the cream would be a problem, obviously, with white. So we filled some of our white ones with some of the blue, so to create some barely blue. But generally, a lot of us are not so happy about using blue on our quilts, and our preference is for the wash away blue markers, the ones that you can wash out, rather than the blue chalk. It's your choice, but we do stock it. But bear in mind that if you were to iron away the blue chalk, you might have problems. But there is a blog post by the people who do the full line stencils on how you can get rid of any marks where you have inadvertently attempted to remove the blue chalk, thinking it was the same as the white and that you could iron it away. It must be out somewhere, Pete. I think we took it to the show. Pete's trying to look for the sample. It's probably in a box somewhere. We haven't even unpacked it from Duxford. We haven't unpacked it. So the barely blue and the blue, do not attempt to try and iron them away. So in the blog post, Marilyn, who does the full line stencils, she talks about an American product, and if you're American, then you might be familiar with this. I got some of this in with the idea that I would, in my spare 5 minutes, try this Oxyclean, and she also says there's 2 methods. White vinegar, we don't have white vinegar at home, but I'm sure we could get some. We use other types of vinegar for our cooking, but we don't use white vinegar. And Oxyclean. So we will try that out, but we haven't done yet. But that's what she recommends. So I have no idea how bad that would be for your quilt, but preferably you don't have to use it in the first place. If you follow the instructions and don't use your iron, then that would be best. There's the recommendation. Good thing is, full line stencils, 15% off until the end of March. Our order that we'll be putting in this week, we get it normally by the end of the week. So hey, if there's any stencils that you're thinking of getting on the full line, and we're showing out of stock at the moment, if you say email me when it's back in, our system is pretty good. It will send it to you automated. You don't need to email us. Use our handyquilter.co.uk website, and that website is pretty good at doing that for you. So there you go. Right, now, the other thing is that we've got foundation workshops coming up on the 4th and 5th of May. Is that right, 4th and 5th? Yeah, 4th and 5th of May. That's foundation workshops with myself, and Pauline will, who does my mail order for us normally. Pauline has one of our lovely Amaras. She's a very good quilter herself, and she'll be supporting me in the classroom along with, well, he'll be teaching some of those workshop elements as well. And we'll be doing those on the 4th and 5th of May. On the 7th and 8th of May, we've got fabulous quilter Linda Jackson, Handy Quilter ambassador and educator, will be teaching on the Saturday and Sunday. We haven't released it for booking yet. I'm just finalizing the details with Linda in terms of getting that class description up. But that will be a wonderful 2 days of teaching. You can do either or both days. Check it, well, reserve the date now. And there are just a limited number of places available for that. So check that out on our website. Email me when it's in stock. There you go. We're starting to get our workshops up online. There'll be a lot more offerings available throughout the year. We're pretty excited about some of the things that we've got coming up. So I really hope you can join us for those. And we'll be having them here in our Pinhole Quilting showroom. And as I put on there, on our newsletter, you know, we are unique in the UK in having so many long arms here available for training, which is absolutely wonderful. It's kind of what Pete and I had as a vision for our handy quilter owners to be able to tap into, and we're getting there in terms of being able to offer you some fantastic classes. Obviously, because of the COVID, it set us back a little bit, but we're getting there now. So we really hope you can join us. We would love it. And we just want to say as well, thank you very much for those of you who step in and watch us on Facebook Live or on Catch Up. It's just wonderful that you do so. And we're delighted that we hit 1,000 YouTube subscribers as well. That was fabulous news. And we even got a little email from YouTube to say congratulations. Cool little gift. Top bananas. Something like that. So, anything else that you wanted to add, Mr. Holpin?
We have, of course, got the foundation workshops coming up first on the 30th and the 31st of March, which you didn't mention, but because they're pretty much full, but we've sold so many machines in the last 6 months. Yes. We've put the extra dates in on the 4th and 5th of May that you can now book.
Yeah.
Sally says, as long as you use an oxygenating bleach, it won't harm your quilt.
God, that's good to know. That's why it says Oxyclean then. So that must be what it is. I know, yeah, I don't know much about this. That's really good to know. I should ask my expert sister-in-law about these things. She used to be the editor for conservation news. She's head of conservation for the Church of England. Go Janet. I should ask her about these things. She would know. Thank you. Anybody who knows about conservation of quilts in particular, it would be really useful to know what you can and cannot do. If you are that kind of expert person and know about handling of fabrics, because when I see things like Oxyclean, I'm kind of, wow, I really don't know much about that kind of thing. So thank you. Oxygenated bleach, is that right?
Oxygenating, yes. I don't know anything about it either.
Okay, cool. Okay.
But
yeah.
according to Sally Mottram, Sally's the expert on this one.
Excellent. Sally Mottram. Brilliant. I just love it when people pitch in and stuff, because it is so useful. We have such a wide body of experience and knowledge amongst our quilters. We really do. Thank you. We are there. I'm going to video this so that we've got this on our YouTube channel to follow up from our Facebook Live. Thank you so much yet again for joining us. Have a wonderful sunny day, because I think pretty much the whole of the UK is under sunshine. Yay! It's a turning point. The 17th of March is always a turning point for spring. I always say that because I know, because it's my birthday week. All right, listen, have a wonderful weekend wherever you are, and we'll catch up with you next week. We will be sharing with you some other tips, techniques, and other things, no doubt. We don't know what they are yet, but we will do by next Saturday morning, by about 11:15. All right, we'll catch up with you then. See you. Bye. Happy quilting.